And welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. So, on today's episode, we are finally going to be dipping our toes, getting into the pool that is horror movies, finally, on this podcast. And we're going to be covering 1976's Carrie. This was directed by Brian De Palma, and it was written by Lawrence Cohen. It was adapted from Stephen King's first novel of the same name, Carrie. And so my history with this movie, I mean, I this is literally the first horror movie I think I ever saw that I really, really connected with. Growing up, I'm a child of the 90s, so in terms of horror, I grew up with, Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark? I was living with these examples of horror in my life, and also like the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. Those were another piece of horror media that you could get your hands on. And so, I kind of ate those up and I really loved them. But I was also like, for example, like was frightened of like the Crypt Keeper, and like, even though it's a comedic character, obviously, that terrified me because he looks crazy. He looks fucking scary when you're like a kid. So, but for some reason, like when I first saw this movie, Carrie, I think I saw it on TBS or something back in the day, and I just fell in love with it. I mean, just everything about it, like the music, the score of this film, just the way it looked, the actors and their performances, making these bold choices that they're doing, and just everything about this film, like it really set me on to a path of like, all right, I don't completely know what I just watched, but as a child, but like I know I want more of it. I want to be spooked, I want to be scared. And maybe it was because, at this time, like, I could understand what it was like to be outcast and bullied. And, that's really what Carrie is this story of a young girl who is just trying to be, normal. She just wants to be normal. That's all she ever wants. And she never can get that. And she's doesn't want to be othered for who she is. But because of the way she's been brought up, and because of the, family she's coming from with her crazy mother, it is just all odds are against her. Um, and I think for whatever reason, well, for that particular reason, this is why people who have been othered, whether it be, I mean, for all hosts of things, whether it be like you're othered because of your sexuality, because of the color of your skin, because of, your disability or something, or whatever makes you different, it really, I think, can, in a way, people can empathize with Carrie, and I think that's why this story is so long lasting. Um, and honestly, it's just my favorite horror movie of all time. So I'm very happy to be covering it. So the plan for this episode is to go over some figures for the film, talk about some critical response quotes that I was able to pull from Rotten Tomatoes, and then I'll talk a little bit about also some of the other adaptations of Carrie as well, since we have the 1976 movie that I'm going over today, but we also have a 2002 TV remake, and then we also have a 2013 theatrical remake. And then we'll move into a plot summary, and then throughout the plot summary, I'll just kind of sprinkle in some little fun facts that I know about the film, since this is my favorite movie, like it's my favorite horror movie, so like, of course I know a little something here and there. A lot of this information, especially the fun facts that I get, are going to be coming from mostly some of these fun facts are coming from IMDb trivia, which I only take I take with a grain of salt. But also, there's a great documentary. I don't own Carrie, unfortunately, but I will at some point. There's a documentary about it's called Acting Carrie, and it's talking to the different actors in this film and how they were cast in the film, how they approached the process and everything like that. You can find it on YouTube pretty easily. So I'm getting this information, some of these fun facts from that. So, take that for what it is. Of course, I also wanted to just mention as well, because I have it on some of my other episodes, but it kind of goes without saying, this is a film review podcast, so spoilers are ahead. So if you've never seen Carrie, if you've never seen any of the other movies that I've covered, just know I'm spoiling the hell out of them. And so if you don't want to be spoiled, go watch the movie and then go listen to me. All right, so let's get into a few figures about this movie. So Carrie was released November 3rd, 1976, with a limited release in the US, and then a wide release on November 16th, 1976. The budget for this film, according to IMDb, was $1.8 million, and it ended up having a box office of $33.8 million. So it did good against what the investment was. We're looking at a Rotten Tomatoes score of 93% on the tomato meter and a 77% audience score. We're then looking at an IMDb score of 7.4 out of 10, and then a Letterboxd score of 3.9 out of 5. So I've pulled some critical response quotes from some critics over time about this film. If you've listened to the show, you kind of know that I like to get some of the rotten ones, because we could talk about how much we love these movies all day, but I always just like kind of looking at the bad quotes or the rotten quotes, because I'm just like, really, all like, come on now. So we have James Barinelli from Reel's View. This was done pre-2000 from what it looks like. He states, there is a little suspense or dramatic tension. Everything plays out like bad melodrama or cheap exploitation. We then have Richard Eater from the New York Times. He posted this on May 9th, 2005. He states, it is sometimes funny in a puzzling kind of way. It is generally overwrought in an irritating kind of way. And once in a while, it is inappropriately touching. And then we have Dave Kerr from the Chicago Reader. He posted this review on September 25th, 2007. He states, this 1976 thriller about a high school outcast, Sissy Spacek, who uses her telekinetic powers to massacre the graduating class, contains a number of interesting ideas, but as with most of his films, De Palma can't keep track of them. So in regards to the cult classic status of this film, Carrie, I think it really kind of goes without saying that, I mean, this is definitely one of the penultimate horror movies. I think it is up there with, things like Psycho, Nightmare on Elm Street, Night of the Living Dead, the Friday the 13th series, that for fans of horror who are looking to get into it, I mean, it's right up there for me, at least, and that's what I think, at least. But, I think that this film, has that cult following because it really has permeated our pop culture. Anytime you reference the Prom Massacre scene, people know what that is pretty much almost all over the world. And that is power, honestly. This was able to really jumpstart Stephen King's writing career. It launched Brian De Palma, where he was able to make more movies. A lot of these actors were able to then have some, steady careers after this. And there's some of them are still working even today. So it's kind of awesome to see the pull that this movie has. And I absolutely consider it a cult classic. People dress up as Carrie. They have things inspired by her. So many movies have been inspired by this film. So many directors and all sorts of people have been inspired by Carrie. And there's no surprise in that. So I definitely think that this particular story, this particular movie, has affected so many different people, and it's really touched them in a way. So before we move into like a plot summary of this film, Carrie, I did want to just mention about the other adaptations of this particular story. So we have this film in 1976, which did very well. We then have a 2002 remake of this film story, pretty much, that was on TV. Then we have a 2013 theatrical remake that was released in theaters. We also have a direct sequel called The Rage Carrie 2. We're not really going to talk about that in this episode. Who knows? I might make an episode of that later on at some point. I actually don't mind the movie, but I definitely understand people's indifference towards it. But anyway, we have this adaptation in 1976, and then we have the 2002 TV movie version of this story. And so, my thoughts about that. So I was probably 10 years old when that came out. So I was all here for it because I had already watched this movie. And it stars Angela Bettis playing Carrie. It has Patricia Clarkson from I think she was in Shawshank Redemption or something. She was also on 6 Feet Under as well. And she's a known actress playing Margaret White. You then have Emile DeRaven, who was on Lost. I didn't watch Lost, but she was on there. She was also in the Hills Have Eyes remake, which was gory, but I didn't mind it. And you had like Catherine Isabel in there from Ginger Snaps, and she wasn't in Freddy vs. Jason yet, but she was also in that. She's in Disturbing Behavior too. Ooh. We'll think about doing an episode for Disturbing Behavior. That movie has an interesting story if you don't already know it. Anyway, that 2002 version, so it was adapted, I think it was produced by Brian Fuller, who's like a known producer. He's also gay as well, I believe, which is cool. But he helped produce this movie, and it was actually a backdoor pilot for a television series that did not end up going anywhere. Now, spoiler alert, the end of this TV version is pretty much that the whole massacre has happened, Carrie's mom dies, all that stuff, but then nobody seems to be able to find Carrie's body. Out of all the people who've died in this whole massacre, nobody can seem to find Carrie, and apparently she died, when really she didn't die. This whole time, Sue Snell, throughout the movie, who we've talked to and all that, she's actually been keeping her in hiding because they're gonna like go to Florida or something to go and like I don't know, escape from this whole thing. And Angela Bettis has a real bad wig in it. If you just look up the ending, like, oh my god. So that was a really bad ending. Not good, but overall, I actually did not mind that adaptation. Is it good? Not exactly. I think it could trimmed off a little bit. It is 2 hours and 12 minutes, which I'm not surprised by because it was a TV movie. But I mean, damn, like we didn't need all that. I don't think. But I will say that I liked the gym teacher in it, Miss. I think she was called Miss Desjardins in this version. Let me just make sure of that actually. But I'm pretty sure she was though. But overall, I did like this film. I like the idea of. I did like that Carrie was played differently by Angela Bettis. She was in this movie May, which if you have not watched May, please go watch it. It's fucking amazing. I think you can find it on Tubi, I believe. But I think with this particular version, I do like that it was a little different than what we had with Sissy Spacek. Angela Bettis is really good at playing these like awkward characters, and I think this absolutely worked. I believe it was I think it was James A. Janice on Dead Meat. I was listening to a podcast of his that he does with his wife, Chelsea, and they were talking about remakes, and they talk about the they talk about the Carrie remake for 2002 and then the 2013 one. And I think James mentioned, he was like, this version of Carrie in the 2002 remake is a very self-aware version of Carrie, and she's very resentful, and she's aware of her position in the school as a whole. And I actually really agree with him on that, because when I saw this many years ago, again, this is my favorite horror movie. And I absolutely think that, it's a different take on Carrie White. Because I think normally, I have read the book before, but it's been a million years since I have. But when it comes to this character, she, I think, is supposed to be this, like, awkward, sheltered, outcast girl, But the fact that Angela Bettis gave her an edge in a way, and made it a little more realistic in that manner, as opposed to Sissy Spacek just being like on the verge at all times, you know what I mean? And like about to have a nervous breakdown at any point. I thought that was actually a really good way of doing it. I also love some of the scenes. Like I love when in the TV movie, so Carrie's been invited to prom, and she's making her dress, and her mom is saying some stuff about, like, it's talking about the Bible and like quoting some verses. And I love how Carrie just says, like, sometimes I think you're just making this stuff up. And her mom's just like, it's in the Bible, read it. You should read it now. And Carrie's like, I'll do it later. And so, no, read it now. And then her mom pretty much says, like, when you need Jesus, he won't be there for you because he doesn't love you anymore. And then literally, like, Carrie kind of gets buck with her mom, and she's just like, Jesus loves everybody, including me. And it's just that rebellion. You see that in this film. But I love seeing that bit of rebellion from Carrie towards her mother, because I think that's an integral part of the story. So yeah, I mean, there are little parts that I do like about that. The prom massacre scene, I like how they had people survive the massacre, because people did survive the massacre. Not everyone died, like in the book. So like, I do like that, and they did keep to the book a little bit more. Overall, I did prefer this more than the 2013 remake, and we'll get to that. But all right, so then we're moving into the 2013 remake. So this was directed by Kimberly Pierce, who did Boys Don't Cry with Hilary Swank. This stars Chloe Grace Moretz as Carrie, Julianne Moore as Margaret White. You got, I think Ansel Elgort's in there. He plays, I think, Tommy or somebody, I think. I don't remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. Judy Greer, my girl from Jawbreaker, and a bunch of movies in the 2000s is in there. Love her. Miss Desjardins was in the 2002 remake. Just check that out a little bit ago. And she's also Miss Desjardins in this one as well. But this 2013 remake, I was in college when this came out. I was 21, I think, somewhere like that. And I was living in Baltimore, going to college. And I was living in a suite at my school, and my suite mate at the time, not my roommate, but my suite mate, he had access to a Zip car. Y'all remember Zip car, where you could like rent out a car at like your school or something, you know what I mean? But you could like take it. And so I didn't drive at the time, but like I remember I wanted to go see this movie, and I asked my roommate, who really liked movies too. He would when he had free time, he was watching movies on his laptop all the time, and like whatever, totally understand that. And I was like, hey, well, if you want, like, we can go see this movie together. And so we drove out to somewhere in Baltimore. We went and saw this movie. I went and saw it, spent my good little money that I had at the time on it. And I remember thinking when I left the theater, because we were talking on our way back to school, he asked like how I liked it, because I told him I love this movie. I love this original story. I love the old version. Like, so we'll see how I like it. And I just remember telling him, I was like, yeah, they didn't do anything like amazing. It was just updated. It had cell phones, and that was about it. Like, it was kind of, it wasn't shot for shot, I guess, but it just was not, it was not hitting like I needed it to hit. Maybe I went in with some sort of expectations. I don't know. Like, I don't remember. It was years ago now. I think for myself, at least, when I was looking at this movie, I was like, why are they making it? Why are they remaking it? If it's not broke, why are we trying to fix it? It doesn't need to be fixed. I will give at least that, like, the car scene at the end where, like, Chris and Billy are in the car and it, like, explodes and shit. That was cool. And Julianne Moore, I think, was fine. I think she actually did very well. And I'm not really, I'm not a fan of Chloe Grace Moretz, I guess. I don't have a reason not to be, and I don't have a reason to dislike her or whatever. But I will say that, I mean, I just think she looked a little too normal. There is something about Sissy Spacek and Angela Bettis in those respective roles that they did, where they are good at playing these awkward people and these kind of sheltered people. That's just something's a little off with them. You know what I mean? Angela Bettis did that beautifully in May. Carrie, Sissy Spacek did it beautifully in Carrie. That just something's a little off with them, And to me, when I saw Chloe Grace Moretz, she was also 16 at the time, so she was the youngest person who ever did this movie. Like, she's the youngest. But I just, no. She just seemed a little too normal to me. I didn't believe her being this, like, awkward person who this upbringing of hers would have made her in a way. I just didn't buy it. And I feel like, and I don't know any names, off the top of my head of who could have done it. I think if they went up in age just a little bit more, just a little bit, maybe not casting a 25-year-old, 26-year-old or whatever like they did initially, but, in the initial movies, but, like, if you could at least, like, have someone who's maybe just a little bit older who could really play awkward well. Because if you have a girl, a female presenting person who can play a awkward girl really well, you're halfway there. You know what I mean? Like, you are, because that's a big part of this film, and it's a big part of the story as a whole. You're supposed to believe that, if you do Carrie up a little bit, she can be presentable and look nice and look good. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't, of course, Sissy Spacek and Angela Bettis are gorgeous, but, like, they're very beautiful. And, in the book, like, Carrie's, like, brunette, she's, like, overweight a little bit, and I can understand that Hollywood's not going to, they're going to have a certain kind of person who's coming in as an actor. I kind of get that. But I just think there would have been a better actress to take that role on, but that's just what I think. I don't necessarily, I don't know. I don't think it did anything, like, horrible, but, you can watch it if you want, but I don't really want to watch it again if I don't have to. I'd maybe even watch the 2002 version before I'd watch the 2013 one. Yeah, but that's just my opinion. So now that we've kind of gone over all that stuff, we're now just going to move into our plot summary. And then, as I stated, I'll give some fun facts while we're doing the plot summary. So we open the movie on this volleyball game that's happening. So you can see there's two sides of the net, and the girls are just trying to keep the volleyball up and, be able to keep it going across the net. We see that there's a gym teacher here. And then you see that we're looking up, and then we are coming down to Carrie, who's played by Sissy Spacek. We're kind of focusing on her. And then you hear the girls being like, hit it to Carrie, she'll blow it. And so Carrie's played by Sissy Spacek, like I said. And then you see that she kind of flubs the game, and then her teammates are all like, ugh, Carrie, like, what the hell, blah, blah, blah. So you then see this girl who has short shorts and feathered hair. This is Chris Hargensen, played by Nancy Allen. She just says to Carrie, you eat shit. And then we get into the one of the most controversial scenes of horror movies is the shower scene. This shower scene is literal full-on boobs and bush. It was the 70s, I guess. But this is just, showing you everything. So these girls are in the locker room after gym class. They're getting changed. All this, of course, when this was showing on television, This was not, this was had to be cut out a whole lot. Um, and also with this volleyball game that we just saw, apparently it was like a real bitch to like keep that volleyball going, which I thought was kind of funny. And I'll get to Norma in a little bit, but we saw Norma who had the red hat on. She's played by PJ Souls. It was actually during that scene where what happened was she was only supposed to be like kind of a minor character, but during the audition, what was it? She had this red hat, and she was able to like during the scene or the audition, I think she like hit Carrie with the hat or whatever, which she does in the scene, and Brian De Palma really liked that for whatever reason, so he had her come back with it, and that's kind of what got her the job a little bit. Anyway, so we have the shower scene going on, right? You got these naked, supposed naked teenage girls, which is kind of odd when you think about it. But you see them, you see like it's just like on their bodies. It's not all on their bodies, but you definitely see some nudity. You see a couple different people. So you see Sue Snell, who's played by Amy Irving, the before she was at one point Mrs. Steven Spielberg. She no longer is, but she was married to him for a while. And so let's see. You got this shower. So you see Nancy Allen. You see Chris. Do you see Norma? You might see Norma somewhere. Norma's played by PJ Souls. You see Helen, who's played by a young Edie McClurg, who was like 30 at the time. And she's kind of a riot. And then we go into the shower and we see Carrie. So Carrie is just, lathering her stuff up, she is just washing herself after this sports, sports game. And so you just see like, she's using the soap, and you see her just like little pasty body. And then you start to, and you hear this beautiful score. So the score was done by Pino Donaggio, who had gone on and done other scores. Most notably, he did 1979's Tourist Trap, which is a great little horror movie. I might do an episode on that at one point. It's a great horror movie if you look it up. But so you just hear this like beautiful music, and it's just really nice and tranquil and all that. And then you start to see, as Carrie's washing her body and all this stuff, you then see that there's blood trailing down her leg. And so she is noticing that she is bleeding. Now, this was actually, Sissy Spacek was kind of trying to get into character and was trying to figure out, like, well, what is it like? And the direction she was given was like, this is like being hit by a Mack truck. And so Carrie was like, all right, what does it mean to be hit by a Mack truck? Like, what does that feel like? So Sissy Spacek actually went to her husband, who is actually the art director, one of the art directors of this film, Jack Fisk, who has since gone on to be one of David Lynch's like art director people. She's married to him. They've been married forever. They were married during this movie, and they have a kid. But anyway, apparently he had gotten hit by a car in his youth. So he had to like explain to her, like, while she was doing the scene with like nobody else around, because I think that's how they did it. He explained to her, like, here's what it was like. It was Christmas time. I was walking around looking at lights, and then I got hit by this, car, and then it was like this, Anyway, so you see this shower scene. So Carrie is just looking at this, and she's just like, what is going on? So she sees all the other girls, and they're getting changed and all that. She's still naked as Jaybird, and she is just freaking out. And she just not runs, but she like stumbles out of the shower and just goes up to these girls and is all just screaming like, help me, please help me. And then they are just like egging her on. They're like having their little tampons, and they're just like, look, Norma, she needs a tampon and all this. And it's, oh God, it's just, they back her pretty much into this corner of the shower, and then they destroy school property. Sue, with her dumbass, she's like destroying school property to take these sanitary pads, these sanitary napkins pretty much, and she's just like passing them to the girls, and they're just chanting and yelling, plug it up, plug it up. And they're just like doing it, and it's fucking crazy. It reminds me of like it's so humiliating. First off, like that is so humiliating. I'm not a woman, I don't have a period or anything, but goddamn, that seems like it's humiliating as ever. But like, it's that, but it reminded me of like, oh my god, like I don't even know, like it reminded me of like Jacob's Ladder, for example. Like when they put spoil not really spoiler, but like when they put Tim Roth in like the freaking ice bath or whatever, and you just see that they're like laughing at him kind of. It's just like weird as hell. So I don't know if that was an inspiration or anything, but this scene was just crazy. So then, Miss Collins, played by Betty Buckley, good old Betty Buckley, who ended up being Margaret White in the failed Broadway production of this story. She comes out and she's just like looking to see like, well, what's going on, guys? Like, what's going on? And she goes to Sue and she's like, Sue, what's going on? She's like, it's Carrie. Like, she got her period. Like, oh. And Miss Collins, and we'll talk about Miss Collins, but like, Miss Collins is just like, Carrie, you got to grow up. Like, you got to stand up and take care of yourself. And then you hear all this commotion going on, and I don't think she hits her. She might like kind of slap her a little bit. And then you just see this light just like you see this light just like pop, and then Miss Collins is like, all right, get out of here, guys, like get out. And she's comforting Carrie because she starts to then realize like this girl doesn't know what's going on right now. She has no idea. And so she's comforting her kind of like a mama bird, if you will, and there's all that. And so that scene ends, thank God. And so then you see Carrie sitting outside the principal's office. And you see that he and Miss Collins are talking inside. I think it was Principal Morton is the name. And so he is talking to her, talking to Miss Collins. And she says something to the effect of, Miss Collins says something about like, she's always been their scapegoat. So you can tell that like Carrie has been made fun of from day one. Like, completely. And so then Principal Morton asks Carrie to come in, but he calls her Cassie Wright. And he like literally has just like, he must have like some kind of brain damage or like, I don't know what's going on with him, because like literally he can't remember her name when she's literally like Miss Collins is literally telling him her name. And I'm like, what is going on here? Are you kidding me? And he's talking about like, yeah, we're all sorry about this incident, Cassie, and do you need a cab? Would you like to go down to the infirmary, lay down for a bit? And Miss Collins is just like, I think she can walk home, like, just take study hall, Carrie, it's fine. And so then you have the last bit of dialogue from Mr. Principal Morton. He says, we're so sorry about this incident, Cassie. And then you already heard Carrie say it's Carrie under her breath, kind of like quietly. And she just screams out loud, like, it's Carrie. And then you see this ashtray just flip and break onto the floor. And it's just iconic. So then you see Carrie walking home. She's just walking down the street, and this little boy on his bike is like going like figure eighting through the freaking trees. This kid was actually played by the nephew of Brian De Palma, a kid by the name of Cameron. And actually, when he goes up to Carrie and he just yells, "Creepy Carrie, creepy Carrie," that was actually Betty Buckley doing that voice. But Carrie is an icon, and she just like makes him fall on the floor, ground, which is great. And also, kind of referencing one of the other episodes I did, this particular shot of Carrie walking down the street actually is homaged, if you will, in the 1999 movie Jawbreaker, when Fern Mayo is walking down the street carrying Liz Purr's books, while the friends of Liz are trying to, they pull up to the house and are going to be putting her back in bed after they find out she's dead. But that whole shot with Fern Mayo with the books, that was pretty much like taken from Carrie on this scene. So that was kind of fun. So then we see Margaret, played by Piper Laurie. She had been, I think she even won an Oscar for a movie before, but then she almost pretty much retired from acting after that, and she came out of retirement for this. So we see Margaret going to Sue's house. She's walking up with her like, big ass hair that she has, her big hair, and then we see Sue's mom. We don't learn her first name, I don't think. She's just Mrs. Snell. Apparently she's married to a doctor. So Sue's mom is like inside watching a soap opera because you just hear the dialogue on the TV. And she sees that Margaret Wyatt is at her door. She lets her in. And she's just like, Margaret's just like, how's the doctor? And how's Sue? But, whatever, just asking these questions. Like, I ain't letting nobody in my house. Are you kidding me? Like, what you mean? But this is a different time. And then Margaret says something like, I think Carrie's in some of Sue's classes. And then Sue's mom even asks, like, if Carrie would like to visit. I just got that on this watch. Like, I was like, wait a minute. Like, even Miss Snell, like, she was trying to like include Carrie, kinda, or all that. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but Mrs. Snell is played by Priscilla Pointer, who is actually the real life mother of Amy Irving. So they actually are playing mother and daughter in this movie. So then you see a little team pamphlet given by Margaret to Sue's mom. And then Mrs. Snell has a phone call. She gets a phone call from her friend, and she's on the phone being like, hey, girl, hey, like, Margaret White's at my house. Give me a minute, I'll get rid of her, and then I'm going to give her like $10. I'll call you back in a minute, all right? So we can gossip. And so then she goes back out. She gives Margaret some money for the little donation jar. Pretty much she's just like, okay, like I gave you money, go away now. And so then Miss Margaret, she says, but before she leaves, she just puts her hand up and just like waves it and just says, I pray you find Jesus. So then she leaves. So then Margaret comes back home. So you see Carrie's already up in her little room in the like the freaking attic or something. And Margaret gets a phone call from the school. And then she's just like, yes, thank you. I love the way Piper Laurie talks. It's so interesting. But Margaret says like, I know you're listening. Come down here, child. And so Margaret calls Carrie downstairs, and I just put in my notes, the score for this whole scene is so goddamn gorgeous, because it is. Peter Donaggio really did that. It's so pretty. Anyway, so Margaret is like, has her back turned to Carrie, and then Carrie's like, who was on the phone, Mama? And she just says, you're a woman now. And then Carrie's just like, why don't you tell me, Mama? And then literally just she gets hit with a fucking Bible, which is crazy. And tells her about Eve, she's like, Eve was weak. Say it, woman, say it. And she said the first sin was intercourse, and just all of this gobbledygook. I don't know. For me, I'm not very religious, like, whatsoever. So, like, I think what's freaky about this movie is that, like, the thing is that when it comes to horror movies, I love them so much, but like I'm not affected by like the slashers and like all this kind of stuff, because at some point I kind of know that like some of this stuff's fake, and some of the stuff is not real, obviously. But like shit like this, like religious, zealotism, if you will, it's so freaky to me, because there are literal people who are like this. Do you know what I mean? So like, it freaks me out. Anyway, so then Margaret, and literally Carrie the whole time is like, she said, you should have told me, Mama. Like, you should have told me. Like, the girls all, threw things at me and laughed and whatever. And she's like, I didn't, Margaret's all like, help the sinning woman see the sins of her days and ways. Let her know, blah, 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 all this craziness. And so Carrie's even like, I didn't sin, Mama. Like, what are you doing? You're hurting me, And she just like, Margaret drags Carrie into the prayer closet, the fucking chokey, like from Matilda. And she's just like going on and on about this like Genesis quote or whatever. And then her daughter's just like banging on the freaking door, just trying to get out. you have this like dramatic music sting, and then she like lights a little candle and she sees her little Saint Sebastian little figure that looks really freaky. Again, not very religious, so I really don't know anything about Saint Sebastian, but you know, that's what that is. It's not a Jesus, it's a Saint Sebastian. You then see Margaret at her sewing machine. So she's sewing, and her daughter finally comes out of the prayer closet, and she just says, Margaret just says, like, you know, you can go to bed now. And so you just see that Carrie's just being abused. She's being abused at school because of the bullies she has to deal with. And then she's being abused at home because her mom is like a religious fanatic. And it's crazy. So then, like, Carrie is just, like, you know, contemplating on her goddamn life that she has. And she's crying in this mirror. And she breaks that shit so quick. And it just, like, you know, kind of moves and just breaks. And then, you know, Margaret's all like, just, like, Carrie? And then her mom just like comes upstairs and be like, what was that noise? And then she's like, go to bed. And she's like, yeah, well, mom, I'll stay in my prayers. So we end that scene. And then we go into Carrie in English class. So you see the English teacher is like talking about like this poem that's being written, and he's like, Tommy Ross, this is way different than, you know, scoring touchdowns or whatever. Even though I don't know if he actually, like, I don't know if Tommy is like a football player though. I thought he was a track star, but you know, whatever. And he, you know, the English teacher's asking for like any criticisms. Carrie says that she thinks that Tommy's poem is beautiful, which I think is very nice. You have that cute you have that split screen shot of the Sayat Doppler, I believe, or Sayat diopter or whatever. You see that shot, whatever. It's great. And the teacher's a freaking dick because he's all like, what does he say? He's like, you know, that's hardly a criticism, Carrie. And then like Tommy under his breath is all like, you know, you suck. He's saying it to the teacher pretty much. And then the teacher's like, excuse me, Tommy Ross. And then he's like, what'd you say? And then he says like, I said, all shucks. So yeah, that teacher's a freaking dick though. But he stands up for Carrie, which is cool. And I actually don't mind that. Then we get into one of the greatest scenes, right? So Miss Collins, she she reads these girls, honey. She reads them, okay? Because she is just like, I want you to know you did a really shitty thing. And you know, she's all like, you know, if it was my decision, you would have 3 days suspension and refusal of your prom tickets. And that would get you where you live, wouldn't it? But the office has decided that you have to have 1 week's detention. But there's still one little catch. It's to be denied detention. That means it's 50 minutes out on the athletic field, and you're going to be there the whole time. And then Chris, under her breath, is all like, you know, I'm not going. And then Miss Collins is like, okay, well, that's up to you, Chris. That's up to all of you. But punishment for skipping detention will be 3 days suspension and refusal of your prom tickets, ho. So, exactly. There you go. Now, suit up. And then Chris is all like, oh, I'm not going. And then, you know, everyone's just like kind of over it. But they had this like little gym class torture, quote unquote, where you see these like cute little outfits that these girls got on, and they're just like doing these calisthenics and all that shit. And I'm just like, okay. But like, you know, you see that going on. It's like set to this like really silly music. Oh dear God, Pino Donaggio, I love you though. But anyway, during this time, you also see that Carrie is looking through the hard catalog. She's trying to find out about miracles. You know, she's trying to be learned, if you will. And then, you know, you then go back to the athletic field and you see the girls like, you know, jogging in place and all that. And then Chris is just like, she can't get away with this. You know, if we all stick together, blah, blah, blah. And then like, Sue Snell's just like, girl, like, let it go. Jesus Christ. Like, let it go, Chris. Like hell I will. And then, you know, the period's not up, Hargensen. Like, well, it is for me. And you're like, you keep going. There's still 10 minutes left. And then Chris tells her to shove it up your... I don't even know what they say. I'm going to say it says shove it up your ass, but you don't actually hear that. And then Miss Collins literally slaps the dog shit out of Chris. And she squares up on her, too. She's like, you do one more move and I'm going to knock you down, okay? She squares up on that girl. So I was just like, God damn. And so then Chris is like, we can't get away with this. Not if we just stick together. Norma. And then Norma ain't got nothing to say. Helen, Edie McClurg ain't got nothing to say. And then she's like, Sue. And then Amy Irving's just like, shut up, Chris. Just shut up. And then this is not over. This isn't over for a long shot. And he's like, you're out of the prom, Hargensen. And it's just wonderful. And then she's like, yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2. Come on, keep going. I tell you, stop running. Anyway, so then Carrie looks at a book called Hidden Powers of the Mind. She learns about telekinesis. She shows us that she can read, with her little finger just like going and telling us all about telekinesis. That's what you got, girl. Then you got Tommy and Sue, who are like a cute little couple. If you remember back to the when Sue's mother sees Margaret or whatever, you see that there's like this little photo of Sue and Tommy on her little like what is that called? Like a little stand or whatever. It's cute. So then Tommy and Sue, they meet on the track. That's what I'm saying. Like, I thought he was a track star. I don't know if he's like a football star, but whatever. So Sue asked Tommy to take Carrie to the prom because she's like, you know what? Listen, like I was being trifling and I want you to, take her to the prom to try to be nice to her pretty much. So then we move into Chris and Billy in the car. So Billy's driving his car and Chris is just getting all cute all up in the passenger seat. And then Billy sees some friends driving next to him. We see a guy named Freddie. And then John Travolta, who's playing Billy, is like, give me one of those beers. And he just like willingly drinks and drives. So I'm just like, okay, Jesus Lord. Anyway, so then you see a car full of girls drive next to Billy and Chris. And then you see the cops drive next to Billy and Chris, and they have like a little flashlight. And he's just like, I ain't drinking. I ain't doing nothing. So then you also hear that Chris keeps calling Billy when he says something kind of like clumsy or whatever, stupid shit. And I guess he doesn't like when she says that. You get the intro to that. You also get some light domestic violence where he just like hits her, and he hits her like once or twice. It's like really ridiculous. Like, but then you also are like, I mean, Chris, like, I think it's also explored in the other adaptations a little bit of just like how, she's kind of coming from a hard background, and I don't think she gets a whole lot of love at home, honestly. So, that's why she just is continually being a bitch, which is interesting because actually, Nancy Allen and John Travolta, who play these characters, they never really saw themselves as like these horrible people, even though that's what they're supposed to be. They don't see him as that. They just see him as kind of like funny, and they're like the jokesters, you know what I mean? So that's how they kind of took it. And then for whatever reason, they just like turn around, like you see a U-turn or something. I don't know where the hell they're going, but all right, there's that. So then Tommy and Sue's like working on some homework, and Tommy's watching like a Western at her house or something like that. And then so Tommy agrees to take Carrie to the prom, which is very nice, because it took him a minute to figure it out. So then Chris and Billy, they go to like this little, I don't know if this is like the Beehive or whatever. This might be the Beehive. It's like a little club that they go to. They go out in the little parking lot. And so Chris and Billy are in the car. And then Chris is all like, oh, well, why are you in such a hurry? Like, come on. And she's like, just like kind of being like a little cat on him almost. Then you see that he's getting a nice little, it's not roadhead because he's not driving, but you could say it's like a little nice car blowjob. And then while she's doing this, she just keeps saying, Billy, oh, Billy, Billy, oh, Billy. And then I'm just like, isn't her mouth supposed to be like filled with that? Anyway, but so then you just hear her say, Billy, I hate Carrie White. And then he just says, who? Aren't you supposed to be sucking my dick? Like, what the hell? Anyway, so that's how that worked. So then you have Carrie and Tommy at the library. And so Carrie is like, she's in the stacks. And then Tommy finds her. And he's all like, hey, Carrie, how are you doing today? And like, then what's your book about? And then she's like, it's about sewing. Sewing, that's good. And then he's trying to invite her to the prom. So he asks her to the prom, but then she runs away. Relatable, Carrie. Relatable. I get it. So then you see Miss Collins, and she's like doing a little gym class or something. But then she's like walking down these stairs, and she finds Carrie just like sitting by herself. I don't know if it's outside a bathroom or something, or I don't know, but there's like a mirror inside this little like room that she takes her in. Anyway, so Carrie's like sitting on this little bench, and Miss Collins is like, was it one of the girls? Like, you can trust me. Like, you tell me whatever. And so Carrie's telling her, like, well, Tommy Ross invited me to the prom. And she's like, that's great. Like, like, he's really cute. And then Carrie's like, I know who he goes with. Like, I know they're trying to trick me. And so then Miss Collins is all like, we got to do something about this like attitude you have of just like moping around and all that. So, she goes in this little room with like this mirror, and she tells her how like that's a pretty girl. Like, this is a pretty girl. Like, if you put your hair up, maybe use a little lipstick, she gives her a little pep talk, and that's really nice, and she's trying to be helpful. Like, she's trying to be helpful as a teacher is trying to empower their students and be able to do that, which I like and appreciate. So then Miss Collins confronts Tommy and Sue up in the office, okay? And so, she's pretty much saying, like, listen, like, I know you're trying to do something, like, I just feel it, like, you're trying to, are you trying to hurt Carrie White, pretty much? And Sue's pretty much like, no, I'm not. Like, I just asked her, I asked Tommy to ask her because, I want to get her involved in stuff. I want her to, kind of acclimate a little bit better. All this kind of stuff is what she's pretty much saying. And Tommy's kind of just going with the flow of it all. Then you see Norma's ass. You see her bringing the attendance sheets to Miss Collins. And then she's just standing there as if, like, she's not just talking to Tommy and Sue. And then she's like, that'll be all, Norma. Bye. Like, go away. And so, and then you see that, like, Miss Collins is saying, like, well, don't you think you'll look a little silly when coming to, the prom with Carrie? And this is my thought about Miss Collins. So at least with this Miss Collins, I was like, okay, Miss Collins. So, like, I know you're trying to be there for your student, and it's all that kind of stuff. I get that. And you're trying to help her and all that. But I also feel like she's a little bit two-faced, because I'm like, okay, so you're saying that, like, Tommy's going to look ridiculous, quote unquote, like bringing Carrie to the prom. Like, what are you? You can't play both sides of the field, Miss Collins. Like, come on now. Like, are you here for Carrie or not? Like, honestly. So I thought she was a little itty bit two-faced, just a little bit, but that's just my opinion. But overall, she is trying to be helpful towards her student. I would hope, at least, because that other teacher was a freaking dick anyway. But, like, but I'm just like, but Miss Collins, you're just like a tiny little bit two-faced, just a little bit. So then Tommy goes to Carrie's house. He drives up in his big old red truck he has, and he knocks on the door, and Carrie's like, why? Like, I can't go. Like, I can't go. Like, why is this so important to you? And he's saying, like, well, maybe it's because you liked my poem. Maybe that's why I'm interested and I want to ask. And then she finally is like, all right, like, fine. Like, I'll go with you. Fine. So then, you then move into the scene where Billy and Chris and the crew go to a slaughterhouse and they kill a pig with a freaking sledgehammer. So, a little fun fact about you see this like painted pigs, kind of like what is it? It's like a mural almost, like they're walking beside. And this was actually scouted out by a art assistant or a location assistant at the time, unknown at the time. Bill Paxton was working with Jack Fisk at this time, and he actually found this in California, because even though this movie, so I think the story in the book, it takes place in Maine. And I think, according to IMDb trivia, I think they say that this is supposed to take place in North Carolina, I guess. But this is all shot in Los Angeles and, like, California, pretty much. Which makes total sense. But, yeah, but you just see, like, Billy, Chris, and their friends just, like, going to the slaughterhouse, and they're about to kill a pig, because they're freaking sociopaths and they're crazy, to drain the pig of his blood, which is insane. Anyway, so, so then you see that, like, the one guy doesn't want to do it. So then Billy is, like, taking the sledgehammer, and he just, like, hits this pig. You don't see anything. But then Nancy Allen, Chris is just like, do it. Do it. And so it's just, like, ridiculous. Then you get to this wonderful iconic dinner scene where you have the Last Supper tapestry um, up in the little dining room, and you hear Margaret saying, Carrie, you haven't touched any of your apple cake. And, Carrie's like, it gives me pimples, mama. And then, like, freaking Margaret's like, pimples are the Lord's way of chastising you. And, like, you can tell in this scene, like, Carrie is just asking, like, you know, I just want to be normal. Like, mama, tell me the other kids, they think I'm funny. I don't want to be. I want to be normal. I want to try and be a whole person before it's too late for me. And then she just gets water thrown in her face by her mom. And yeah, it's crazy. And she's like, "What are you prattling on about, Carrie?" And then she says, like, "I've been invited to the prom." And then she says that whole thing. She says, like, um, I'm funny. Like, all the kids think I'm funny. I don't want to be. I want to be normal. And then her mom, like, throws water in her face. But she's trying to tell her, like, I want to be a whole person. Like, I don't want to be you, pretty much. She says, his name is Tommy Ross, and he said he'd come in and meet you, and he's a very nice boy, and all of this. And she said, I've accepted, Mama. I've accepted. And then she starts to say some, kind of good shit. She's saying, like everyone in bad, Mama, everything in the sin, and she's just like, it's just an iconic scene. I freaking love it. And so then, and then Margaret starts talking about the smell, the boys, after the blood come the boys. They're trying to figure out where that smell comes from, where that smell. And so it's just like so freaky. And so then, like the rain's coming in, so like Margaret's like about to go close the window, and then she's like, please sit and talk with me. And then, she just like closes all the windows and stuff, and she's just being a freaking legend. And so like then Margaret's like, you're a witch, and be like, I'm not a witch, it's me, like it's not devil, I would know if it's the devil. And then I love this one quote where, Margaret's all like, he doesn't let you know that he's working within you. He tempted your father, and that's why he went away or whatever. And then Carrie just says, he ran away, Mama. He ran away with a woman. Everybody knows that. So you already know that you're like, okay, this is a single mother type situation. The dad left with a woman. They the talk of the town because everyone knows their business. So I'm like, all right, we got that. But anyway, so then after that beautiful iconic dinner scene that I love so much, you see Chris and Billy put the blood in a bucket, and they're setting up. And then you see Margaret praying while Carrie is making her dress, which is so nice because she's like a friggin' seamstress. So at least she can maybe try to, get out on her own and like make dresses and stuff. So then you see Freddie, a friend of the popular crowd, and Chris. They're hatching a plan with this guy. I think his name's Ernest. He has like glasses and shit. And Freddie's asking like, I just have so much school spirit. Like, I want to try and collect ballots at prom. Is that all right? Cool. Is that all right? And then Ernest is like, yeah, can you be here at 6:30? And then he's like, no, I can't be there at 6:30. But how about 8? Yeah, 8 works. Okay. So then they're able to do that like really quick. And then I love this little scene with Helen and Norma at the salon. If you notice, Norma has her red hat or whatever, and it's on top of the hair dryer that she's sitting under. I think it's so silly. And I love how they say like, Helen. And then Helen's just like, what? And she's like, did you hear about Tommy Ross? And she's like, what? Did you hear about Tommy Ross? What? And he's like, he's taking Carrie Wyatt to the prom. And then they're just like cackling like hens. It's like pretty much me and my squad. And be like, what is she gonna wear? Sackcloth? So then you see, Frida, this girl Frida, and Sue is talking on a ladder about like, yeah, it's true. Like Tommy is taking Carrie White to the prom. And before that, you see Carrie going into like a drugstore or something. So then you see them talking on the ladder, and then Norma and Chris on the bottom, they're talking, and then Chris, Norma's all like, tell me what's going on. And then, Chris is all like, well, you'll know later, blah, blah, blah. And then she tells her, like, she whispers it to her and being like, oh, okay, that's what's going to happen. Okay, got it, girl. So then the boys, you see Thomas, you see Ernest from before. Tommy, Ernest, and a mystery friend. I never got his name. I think he's Frida's boyfriend or something. You see them go tuxedo shopping, which is just like a really silly scene that, Ernest doesn't, he doesn't have a tuxedo body, and, it's just like a really weird little scene. So then you have, oh, and then Carrie tries on lipstick. She's trying to look all cute and stuff, but she doesn't know how to put on the lipstick because she don't wear that stuff. But she's at least trying to look cute though. She's trying to look cute for her mans. So anyway, so then you have Carrie getting ready for prom. So she's putting on her mascara or whatever, and she's just trying to look good. And her mom comes up and she says, she just says, like red. I thought I might have known it would be red. And her mom is and Carrie's just like, it's pink, mama. Like, what are you talking about? And so, you have all that, and then Margaret's like, I can see your dirty pillows. Everybody will. And Carrie corrects her and says, breasts, mama. They're called breasts, and every woman has them. And then, Margaret's all like, they're all going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you. And then she starts saying, like, oh, like, he's not coming. He isn't coming. Like, we can just burn that dress. All this. And it's just like so. And then Carrie's just like, stop. Like, I'm already nervous. Like, shut up. And then she's like trying to, like, Margaret's trying to overpower her daughter. And then, like, Carrie just uses her powers to be like, just sit down. Don't do anything until I leave, okay? And I'll be home early, okay? And then Tommy actually shows up, and then they go out to prom. So then Carrie and Tommy arrive at the prom. They're in his little car that he has. I don't actually know. Do they show up in the car, or they show up in the truck? Maybe they show up in the truck. But anyway, so then Carrie comes into the prom. She goes to the table. She's like, her little friend Frida is like talking to Carrie. She's like, I love that dress. Like, where'd you get it? And she's like, oh, I made it. And so then you see Sue at the dinner table, and then she's just like, what time is it? And there's like 8 something or whatever. And then she's like, okay, I'm gonna go out for a little bit. Bye. So then Tommy asks Carrie to dance, and then Carrie doesn't want to dance because she's just like, I can't dance, like da da da. And then Miss Collins and Carrie, they're talking. So then Miss Collins comes up. She's like, you look beautiful. And then I think like Tommy's going to get some punch or something like that. And he like leaves, and they're having like a little girl talk, and she's just like, I remember my time at my prom. I got these like I was with this guy from the basketball team, but he was like a little shorter, and like I was taller than him, so like I had to or what was it? It was something. No, he was on the basketball team. He was tall, and she wore heels to make herself tall, but then she just like screwed up her feet a little bit, and so she couldn't really dance, but they just like talked all night and all that, and it was just such a memorable experience. And you were like, oh, that's so nice. And so this is also when you hear Carrie saying that, like, it's like being on Mars, and it is for her. This is so surreal and otherworldly in a way. Like, she never would have gone to a prom. And so, it's great that she has this experience, which is really nice. Then Tommy comes back to the table, and after her and Miss Collins hug, and he's like, don't catch me hugging, don't let me catch you hugging any guys like that or whatever. And that's all nice and dandy. And then Carrie and Tommy finally go out to the dance floor, and they dance. And then, Carrie's just like dancing, and she's putting her head in his like shoulder. And then she's just like, Tommy, why am I here? And why am I here with you? Why? She's asking these questions, and he's just like going with it and going with it. And they're getting the fucking spins because this like shot will make you like pass out almost. But then you see that Tommy actually kisses Carrie, which is like, it's just kind of nice. I mean, and then you hear this song like about, I never thought someone like you would love someone like me. And it's just a really nice little, it's a nice little scene, and it's very nice, and it's showing that like this really is like her being on Mars. This is like it's turning out to be a really great night for Carrie. You're setting this up to show that like this is a really awesome night for her, and she it's just it's everything's going good. So a little bit about that. So like, the I believe Betty Buckley, I think, just improv that whole little story that she told, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of funny. So then Sue arrives at the prom, so she actually can't go because she doesn't have a date, but she ends up like kind of sneaking into the backstage area behind the stage, and she's just like watching this because she's just like, oh, this is so cool, whatever, whatever. So then, voting for king and queen of the prom. And so Carrie sees that the ballot has her name and Tommy's name. Be like, oh, we shouldn't vote for ourselves. And then Tommy's just like, well, let's just do it. Like, it's not much anyway. It's not anything that serious. And to hell with false modesty. And then Carrie says something like, to the devil with false modesty or whatever. And so that's all well and good. Um, then you see a shot like vertically, which is just like Margaret back at home, like pacing back and forth in the kitchen. She just takes a carrot and a butcher knife and just like slams the knife on the carrot and is just like chopping it. And so you're just like, okay, great, awesome. So then you see Chris and Billy under the stage. So you see that Chris is under there with Billy. They're going to be making this prank happen. And so they're just like, do you want people to see us? Like, close that a little bit. So you see that, and you see that they're there. So then this begins the shot that is all one shot, which is crazy. Is Tommy and Carrie winning prom king and queen, and everybody. So then you also are getting the before this a little bit, you get this whole scene with Norma and Freddie, who I think are like dating. I think they're together, and they're collecting ballots. You see this whole thing where they're collecting all the ballots, and then they go to a particular area like where nobody can really see them, and like they kiss, and then they like drop the ballots, they put them under a table, and then they get these new ballots, which are like the fake ballots or whatever, that all have that, Tommy and Carrie won, when really they probably actually didn't. I think in the story, like in the book, these were actually found, the real ballots were actually found later. But yeah, so... But woohoo! Tommy and Carrie, they win prom king and queen, and it's so wonderful. And they're heading up to the stage. You have this beautiful score by Pino Donaggio. It is so good. And so then, again, this is all one shot, which is kind of insane. It's pretty much a big shot of that. Like, they're just doing this whole thing. And so then Sue is like behind the stage and she's like looking, but then she notices there's this like little rope that's like right near her. And she's like, what the hell is this? So that as Tommy and Carrie, they head up to the stage to collect their, crown and the flowers and all that stuff. And it's really nice. But then Sue's following this rope and she's just like walking out. She's just like seeing like what this is. So she's noticing like, what the heck? There's like a bucket. You don't hear anything. There's no dialogue. No dialogue. So this is all just music and visuals. So then you just see like she's seeing that there's this bucket above. It's like right above Carrie. And then she follows the rope and she's just looking. And then she sees this pair of hands with the rope. And she's just like, what the heck? So she goes and like kind of slow-mos. It's all in slow-mo too. And so like, she's looking underneath the stairs and she sees her ex-friends pretty much. Chris and Billy. Although I don't really know if Billy's her friend. But like, you see these people and be like, what the hell? So then Miss Collins is getting wind of this, and she's just like, oh God, like we need to get rid of her, whatever. Like she's here without a date. And you see this whole thing. So Miss Collins is like thinking she needs to like, she's like pulling Sue, and she's like pulling her out so she could like just have her leave because she's like, okay, we can't have any more ruckus. And then you even see like Tommy looking at Sue, and then Carrie looking at Sue too. And just like what exactly is going on? And then literally once Miss Collins pushes her out of the once they push her out of the prom and the doors are closed, that is when you have the fateful pull of the string, the pull of the rope, and the pig's blood, which was made of corn syrup, just falls all over Carrie. And it's just like this. The sound design of this too is just so awesome. It is literally just like this the sound of the bucket and like the bucket just swinging. It's like really, really good. And so the blood drops and she's just covered in it. You see Norma starting to laugh, and some other guys starting to laugh at her, but like everybody else just looks so disgusted and so can't even, right? And then even Tommy's like, what the hell? You see him mouthing these words, but then the bucket falls on his head and apparently kills him. And so then, Billy and Chris are, they leave out, or they leave underneath the stage and they're leaving out. And then you see these two people. You think you see Norma and Freddie, I guess. They're trying to go to the door. And you see Carrie, and she's covered in blood. And you just see her face. So you see her eyes, and you just know that something bad's going to happen. So then you just see like all these doors slamming, and then the lights turn red. And I literally have in my notes, it just says, all fucking hell breaks loose. And then Carrie leaves the prom looking like an icon, which is very true. But then pretty much like she burns this fucker to the ground. So, Sue's knocking on the door. She's like, somebody open this door. And so then Carrie's like, getting the fire hose, and she's like hosing bitches down. Fun fact is that Norma, PJ Souls, you see her getting, hosed down, and what actually happened was that they wanted to do it at full blast, even though the fire marshal whatever said like, oh, you shouldn't do that, but it happened, and it actually busted her eardrum, and so she was literally unconscious when this whole thing happened, which is crazy and doesn't sound fun. Yeah, so like the principal, or like the English teacher, so the principal I think is there, and he gets electrocuted by like the freaking microphone or whatever, and then the English teacher then like rolls back, he sets on fire, and then shit just sets on fire, and it really just turns into hell at this point. You're just like, oh my dear god, like what is going on? So then like Carrie's just killing all these people, and she's just like all of them, just every last one of them. And so she's just leaving this reign of just terror. And she opens the doors with her telekinetic powers, and then she closes them, and then she just burns that bitch to the ground. Icon, legend, and star, honestly. So then she leaves the prom looking like an icon, and so then so she's walking on the road, and you see Chris is driving Billy's car. Billy is looking like a little drunk idiot. And so then Carrie, like, friggin' Chris is a sociopath, and she's like trying to run Carrie over. And then Carrie is like, nah, I'm gonna flip the script on you. And like, she flips the car and just like makes it explode with them inside of it, which was just iconic. So then Carrie walks home. She's looking like an icon, And so then Carrie goes into her house. She finds that the house is being lit with a bunch of candles. So that's fun. And then she's going upstairs to where her bathroom is, and she goes into the bathroom. But when she goes in the bathroom, you see her freaking mother is just like behind the door of the bathroom, looking like a freaking mannequin, looking crazy, scary. So you're like, okay, like, oh my god. So she gets in the bath and she's bathing. She like soaps herself up. She soaps her hair, all that stuff. She's just getting clean, trying to get all the blood off as she changes into her nightgown. And so then you see Carrie asking for her mom, and she's like, you're like, Mom, they all laughed at me. Like, like you were right. Like they all laughed at me. Just hold me, Mama. And then Margaret is recounting the night that Carrie was conceived. Like, me and Ralph, we were good. Like we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything. And then he had that Roadhouse whiskey on his breath, and I liked it. I liked it, and it's just like really over the top and crazy. I freaking love Paper Lori. But anyway, so like she then talks about how sin never dies, and you just gotta keep killing it, kind of a thing. So then, she's holding her daughter, Margaret's holding her daughter, and then she just brings up, and then it's like, oh, Father who art in heaven, da 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 da. And then she just brings this butcher knife and just like stabs Carrie in the back. And then Carrie like literally falls down. She falls down those stairs. And she's just like backing up with her mom, and her mom just like has this like deranged look on her face, like this deranged smile, and it's just like in ecstasy of just like about to kill her daughter, and she's just like gonna stab her because she also said like, I should have given you to God when I had the chance, like I should have killed you when you were a baby, which is like really dark. So then so Carrie then crucifies her mom, and then her mom is like is in this like orgasmic kind of like, I don't know what's going on, but like she has this kind of like moaning going on while she's being crucified by every fucking like sharp thing in the house. Very much so, she crucifies, she literally recreates the Saint Sebastian like little friggin' figurine that she has on her mom pretty much. And so then Carrie's like looking at her, and then she just like takes a knife out of her mom's hand, and then she just screams. Um, and so Carrie takes her mom into the prayer closet while the house is just falling in on itself, or there's like boulders that are like coming in, which is insane. And so then, so this was like part of the book that like these boulders just like fell out of the sky, or these meteors or something. They just like fell out of the sky into the white residence, which you see more in the 2002 remake actually. And there was actually an opening scene that was supposed to be Carrie as a child, and she comes across a next door neighbor of hers who's sunbathing and is teaching her about like, yeah, these are your breasts, blah 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 blah. And there was actually, and it was talked about in the movie, the 2002 movie, and there was a scene that was shot that kind of shows this. And it was actually, there was a similar scene shot with Sissy Spacek being Carrie as a young person, and it was shot and everything, but it just kind of taken out, which was kind of unfortunate. But there are like production stills of it. And so then, yeah, Carrie and her mom just die in the house. So that's a really uplifting, fun ending of this whole thing. So Carrie's dead, her mom's dead, the house is just like caved in on itself. And then we're back at Sue's house, and Sue is sleeping. Her mom is next to her in a chair, and the phone rings, and Mrs. Snell is like, Betty, thank God it's you. I don't think I could have taken one more reporter. Like, Sue's okay. She's sleeping too much, but Dr. Schneider, expects that, that would be normal with what she's gone through. We just have to get away. Fun fact, so if you don't already know, Priscilla Pointer, who plays Sue Mrs. Snell, she actually then played a doctor. I don't remember the doctor's name, but she played a doctor in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. She plays the main psychiatric doctor in that. So that's fun. But Sue is sleeping. So Sue is sleeping, and she has this dream, pretty much, I guess. It's like a dream where she's walking with flowers. She's wearing like this white gown. It's like a dress, and she's walking to this grave site for Carrie, which is pretty much where the house was. It's where Carrie's house was. So she's like walking. It's very dreamlike. It's very, just like, it was actually shot in reverse, I believe, to make it have this dreamlike quality. And so she goes up to this like makeshift cross where it's a for sale sign or something, but it then says like Carrie White burns in hell or whatever. So, Sue has these flowers, and she's about to put them onto her grave site when all of a sudden a bloody hand just like comes up from the rubble and is trying to pull Sue down. And then she's just like screaming, and her mom is just like consoling her like, I'm here. And you see like Sue's little suitcases and everything. And then you hear all this dramatic music and everything. And then that's the end of the movie. So, if you didn't already know, kind of a little fun fact. So this ending scene of the movie, Carrie, is kind of a big shock. People weren't expecting it at the time, they thought it was all done. Um, so this very much came and inspired the ending of Friday the 13th from 1980, where, Alice is like the final girl. She survived all the killings and everything, and she's on the water. She's like putting her hand in the lake, which is kind of gross. And so then Jason comes up from from the water and like brings her under or whatever. And it's all a dream. So that was absolutely inspired by Carrie. And then there's been other references for it as well. But like I said, that is the end of Carrie. I mean, this is honestly my favorite horror movie of all time. I just feel for Carrie. I feel for this character. Um, this is like the ultimate bullied kid revenge story, and I think that's why so many people can really understand it and can really identify themselves within it. um, I know this movie and story in particular is really um, deep with the queer community as well. Um, a lot of LGBTQIA people really like this story because they feel for Carrie, and they feel like, yeah, like good for her, like she's able to like finally get revenge on these people who have really messed with her. And honestly, they all kind of deserve it. Really, I mean, they all were kind of shit. They've been bullying her forever, and you know what? Like, there you go. Like, that's what happens. So I would definitely give yourself a wonderful treat, watching Carrie. You can get this on it's on Shudder right now. It might go away. So we're doing this in around August 16th or something like that, somewhere in there. Actually, I think is the 18th. But we're looking at like it's on there, it's on Tubi, it's on Prime right now. God, what else? Yeah, you can find Carrie a lot of different places. I mean, you can pull up and like rent this on YouTube probably. I mean, I highly recommend it. I'd say treat yourself to it. Get yourself the Blu-ray if you want. Like, I would definitely recommend it no matter what. It is a penultimate horror movie. It freaks me out. And it's still just like, it's just pretty much, it's like 9.5 for me at least. Like, it is pretty much almost perfect. So, I mean, that's really all I have to say about that. As always, if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can do so at cultcinemacircle@gmail.com in case you wanted to give any movie recommendations, if you wanted to give feedback on the show, or if you just wanted to say, hey girl, hey, I'm open to all of it. You can also follow Cult Cinema Circle on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd. Instagram handle is Cult Cinema Circle. Twitter handle is Cult Cine Circle. On those platforms, I tend to post when new episodes have come out, what the new next episode will be, post stories on Instagram, all that kind of stuff, post Twitter, pictures and everything like that. And then on Letterboxd, I'm at Jesse, Jesse, Kremp, Kremp. I post the movies that I watch, and then I also write little reviews and just general foolishness over there. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast on your podcatcher of choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, or wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. I'm all over the place. Be sure to leave 5 stars and leave a 1 to 2 sentence review. It helps the show get seen by more people, and it helps grow the audience for the show. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. And remember, I can see your dirty pillows. Everybody will. Take care. Bye.